Hi, welcome back to FutureFast. And once again, we have Dr. Ravi with us. And uh, before we get on to discussing what Dr. Ravi is doing, a quick introduction. FutureFast is to bring people such as Dr. Ravi who is doing things which are looking at addressing the future that is it is likely to be, and also trying to make it better for all of us and most of us. So, in this conversation, we are going to understand what is it that Dr. Ravi is doing right now, and particularly in driving entrepreneurial efforts in trying to bring people from uh, different specialities and different schools. So, we'll jump right into it and take it forward. Thank you once again, Dr. Ravi, for uh, supporting this effort and joining in. So, can you please take it away from
Sure.
what is the current thing that you're doing and why you actually mentioned in the close of the past conversation that we had, but maybe a quick refresher on that, and then we can go forward.
Okay, so thank you, of course, for calling me to be part of this. I think I find this very exciting and must take my hat off to you. I think this is a very forward looking program because everybody is focusing on what is the present day reality. To be looking ahead is a very, very smart move and very rare in India because, in general, in India, we don't do future planning. We are still struggling with the present, and that continues even to this day and age. So let me divide what I have to share with you into two. One is
Please.
general comments about what where I see future and where we will be in the future. And second is specifically my program with respect to that. Because to see my program in isolation would not do it justice.
Absolutely. Yeah, please.
So, my initial thought process was like this that this concept of being future ready involves a lot of thinking and contingency planning. And as you mentioned, there are futurologists. Futurology is a science. The father of futurology was Alvin Toffler. Almost he and his, I think Heidi, his daughter. But basically, the message which you draw from their books is not about the reality of future shock, but the fact that when you are unable to deal with future, you regress into the past. So a lot of our tribal behaviors are not tribal behaviors so much as reaction to future shock. So
Absolutely.
if you identify somebody demonstrating tribal behavior, it is somebody who has been hit by future shock and he can't cope already. So it is not that future shock is coming, it has already come because you are seeing tribal behaviors everywhere. The second group of teachers about future are science fiction authors. Okay, nowadays, of course, nobody reads, so it's all movies. But basically, science fiction is about future and how science will play a role or how it affects science or how science affects the future. Now, the take home message from science fiction was at one time, the science fiction writers would try to awe you with the science. But nowadays, everybody is trying to make you feel one with the story and assume that the science is taken for granted. There's a famous saying that true art is to conceal art. And this was the famous line which came about Star Wars, that what made Star Wars different from Stanley Kubrick movies, for instance, is in Star Wars you got sucked into the story. You don't
Right. We were
realize
in
the
the future.
yeah, you don't realize the technology.
Right.
For instance, Avatar's movies, the story grasps you. You discuss the good or bad aspects of the story. You kind of take the rest of the tech for granted, and that is such a quantum leap in acceptance of technology that you accepted technology without changing.
Correct. But so that is where we really need to bridge this.
Yeah. So no, I'm just sort of trying to tell you what are the aspects of futurology which I find extremely exciting. So to recap, one would be Toffler telling you that tribalism is a reaction to already existing future shock. Second, sci-fi people trying to tell you that the day you absorb the future and continue being what you are is the day you learn to enjoy it rather than be in awe or afraid of it, like you mentioned in your first podcast. You shouldn't be afraid of it. You mentioned that you shouldn't be afraid of change. One of the ways you won't be afraid of change is if you accept it innately and you say, okay, I will not change, let the future change around me. The third take home which I have, or message which I have imbibed in this game, is from the books of Richard Feynman. Now, I found him a very exciting person. Obviously, he is a Nobel Prize
I
winner.
think, but he was a brilliant author as well. I mean, his
Right.
books are so entertaining, better
exactly.
than most fiction writers.
One of the things which he said, and this was in the preface to Feynman Lectures in Physics, was that when the Sputnik went into space, the American government called for a meeting and asked the scientists, how is it that these people are ahead of us in the game? And if you go through history, all the major leaps into space were Russian. Now, they both fed off the West German space program, I mean, the missile program of World War II. But the brains were all in America, and only the machines were in Russia. So the American government was vexed by the fact that, in spite of the fact that all they had was the machines, and they could only knock it down and remake it, they were ahead of the game. And they, as usual, committees are formed, and Feynman headed one of those committees. And one of the conclusions of the committee was very interesting. So what they said was that the education system forces students to repeat the entire course of education which their teachers had undergone. So by the time they reach to the level of the teachers, they are in their 40s. And to expect them to advance the nature of science in the next 5 to 10 years was futile. And therefore, they proposed a new way by which you start the student by giving him a concise account of what has been done so far, and you push him from there. Now, that's a change in the pedagogy of teaching, which I thought was extremely interesting. Because if we see the way we teach science today, you're just handing down stuff which is already done.
Right.
Now, you can't be future ready if you adopt this approach.
Correct.
So I repeat, these are things which I think are essential starting points. The first starting point would be the fact that future shock exists. The second point is that you should learn to internalize it and be pleasant about it. And the third is you have to be ready to address it. It cannot be left to happen by chance.
Absolutely.
Okay? Now, I do not make any claims to being a visionary or sitting in a position where my vision or my words would count for anything. Thankful for you for asking me to talk. Nobody listens to me in my own house, so very happy that you've given me a chance. But
No.
there are some take homes which I can share with you. Coming out of the field of medicine, which I have some experience with. Now, somewhere in the 90s, a new aspects of medical science started called evidence-based medicine. Started in the UK, but soon spread all over the world. Basically, that was a science which challenged the medical science. It asks everybody to ask themselves, do you really know what you are talking about? Because medicine was very much reliant on hierarchy. My professor did this, I learned this, I know it works, therefore I do it. And then I meet somebody else whose professor did it differently, skinned the cat differently, it worked too. So now you don't know which is the correct way or if there is anything like correct way. And therefore, evidence-based medicine started off with the idea of breaking this and trying to figure out what really works. It was very heavily statistically based, but through the tenets of evidence based medicine, you developed the 5 stages of evidence based medicine, beginning with anecdotes and going on to randomized controlled trials, to meta analysis, and so on and so forth. And finally, it came into practice as practice guidelines. So, guidelines were given to everybody as to how to treat a patient of this or that disease. Now, it was a very, very long and convoluted process. It changed medicine radically because a lot of things we were doing almost instinctively, when held up in the light of science, were proven to be ineffective statistically. So, after surgery, should I give an antibiotic? Everybody would think, okay, you've undergone surgery, you should have an antibiotic. But when held up to the tenets of evidence-based medicine, it failed because the patients who didn't receive antibiotics, statistically, did as well as the patients who did receive antibiotics. Now, that actually took us in the profession a lot of time to twist our heads around. So you're still left slightly in the dark. What should I do? Should I give or should I not give? And it induced a lot of hamletting. But, questions, should I operate? Should I not operate? Should I radiate? Should I not radiate? Etc., etc. So that was something which became a routine practice, and that is reasonably new. It's not that old. 10 to 20 years in medicine is reasonably new. And now we have the onslaught of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and all that added onto this, which has absolutely no checkpoints. It is suddenly one program tells you this is this and this is that. And if you try to go into that, even the programmer doesn't know because he's let it free to churn data as it will. He's given some initial guidelines, that's all. Asimov's laws of robotics was in a novel and not in reality. So if your ChatGPT's solution kills a lot of people, you're not going to be putting 3 laws of robotics on him. So now medicine has to figure out how do you deal with this? Because if you get a solution which is AI driven, do you put it through the evidence-based medicine? What do you compare it with? So to an extent, medicine is going to face this major challenge, not in losing jobs, as is very childishly said, but in how do you assimilate the advances of medicine into advances in tech, AI, etc., into the body, the corpus of medicine. And that would be the challenge, which, sad to say, most medical fields are not really doing because it's a new thing. So we are treating it like, a cat seeing a ball of wool, tapping it and moving it this way, or writing a few papers. I don't think we have grasped the enormity of the challenge. So this is one point. Now, I think I'd stop trying to pretend to be Alvin Toffler and come back to my program per se.
Please.
So my program was basically envisaged because India has now been working in this field of bioinnovations for some time. It started in the early 2000s. There was not much money there, but the government and a lot of private players started getting into it. Then the current political powers that we introduced that Make in India drive, which has now gone into overdrive because everybody is going into Make in India, and we're running helter-skelter, making things in India. Now, the reason why Make in India will not make an impact so soon is that the innovations are not as yet there. They are there in certain fields which we are strong in, like the IT sector. But in the manufacturing and the other tech sector, it is not yet there.
Well, for the start, what is happening in Make in India is that a lot of manufacturing, what was happening elsewhere, the technologies have been brought in here with the technology partnerships. So there are local partners who are partnered with the international manufacturer with their technology, and that is getting manufactured here. So that area is really picking up. A lot of manufacturing is actually getting started in India.
Yeah. So,
And but of course, the true innovation leading to make completely make out of India.
so that's roughly what I'm hinting at. That again, I can't talk as if I'm an expert. I'm sure you know more about that than I do. But it seems to me that in the actual hard tech sector, we are still not there, not at the cutting edge. And I think the current COVID issues brought that out into the fore because there was a shortage of a lot of essential components because of that. But the point which I'm trying to make is that the reason why we are not really up there is because between the various streams, not only software, hardware, between various specialties, the crosstalk in India is not good enough. Partly because the major way in which crosstalk has been happening so far has been serendipity. You chance to meet a doctor, or a doctor chance to meet an engineer, or marries one, as the case may be, and then in the course of the talking, ideas come, which is okay. I mean, a lot of science has been serendipitous. We understand that. But if you're trying to increase and you're trying to make it more organized, you have to reduce the serendipitous element and enhance the organized element.
Absolutely.
This
Yeah.
is what we feel is a change from a fishing expedition to a farming expedition.
Right.
And most agri-tech people would understand that, you know, farming, even fish farming, is more effective in terms than going out to the sea and looking for fish. So part of what I'm trying to do is acknowledging the reality of that, and also realizing that we must leapfrog into the cutting edge. We cannot follow the path which was followed by others. Now, the essential ideas came to me because I saw collaborations happening between multiple specialties, but one based in India and one based abroad. So I saw a gastroenterologist from India linked to a physiologist in Mayo Clinic, and I saw a physiologist in India, and they were in adjacent departments, linked to a gastroenterologist in UK. And over the coffee table, we were laughing, saying, why don't they talk to each other? And then we realized that there's no real channel of communication. We have not, in our course of studies, like if I'm studying engineering, I study only engineering. I don't study medicine. I don't meet a doctor, and vice versa. So basically, what we are trying to do here in CCamp is create an atmosphere where doctors and engineers, and hopefully other specialties, in fact, the entire STEM group, designers, managers, everybody should learn to interact cross specialty. Because if you are going into your specialty, you have to go deeper and deeper in smaller and smaller areas. But if you cross the borders of your specialty, you can get traction and you can get there faster. So how do we make this a reality? How do we take it out of a coffee table discussion? We thought, let's go and start lighting the candle. So what we've done effectively is taken it's a small program. You can consider the whole thing a pilot program. But what we do is we reach out to universities. We request the universities to accept the fact that by sitting on medical and engineering colleges, they are sitting on a gold mine. But they're treating it as two different gold mines. If they interact together, it's a vastly bigger gold mine, because there's a lot of money in this and there's a lot of chance of wealth creation, again that term. So we then create a structure which is a platform-based structure, and we encourage people to join this program. And the process we have adopted is to make it a problem oriented process. So we literally go around to departments, and if I may be permitted a slight cul-de-sac, the 15th century poet Kabir once said that if you want to sell alcohol, open a shop, people come to you. If you want to sell milk, you have to go around house to house. So I think we are selling milk here. We are going around house to house, department to department, and trying to tell people, look, don't think big, think small. Because often the solution to small problems are profound. I would ask you to remember that C.V. Raman's Nobel Prize came out of a simple problem. Why is the sky in the Adriatic so blue? And that thought led to many things, the Raman effect, the Nobel Prize, etc. And even today, the Raman effect is being used in medicine. Every year, they have conferences on that. So remember that the thought was extremely simple, but it was a question, and it was a genuine question. So as long as we can get people activated to pose genuine problems, I think everybody has got science all wrong. The profundity of science comes out of the simplicity of the question.
That's a great statement. Yeah.
So as long as you ask, but it should be sincere. So you get these people to pose simple problems, and then you get the engineers to apply their brains. You get the second major issue, which is the issue of the iterative loop. Too many problems are taken off the net, and everybody says, "Okay, I'll have the solution." They forget that the reason it fails is because your iterative loop is not close. You don't need brains; you need a good iterative loop, and automatically things come through. So if we can push these things, and these are going to be pushed subtly. They are not going to be pushed in their face. The doctor just poses a problem. The engineer learns to solve it. So automatically he learns the importance of the iterative loop. He learns the importance of a problem being addressed directly, not in theory. He learns to become a problem solver, and it is a win-win for everybody, because the doctor gets to see that he doesn't have to wait for an American to solve his problem. The engineer gets in his CV an add-on, not only his degree, but also that he developed this or he was involved in problem solving, which is what industry is looking for.
Right.
And of course, now a lot of universities are duty bound to show, to get for accreditation, they have to show that a lot of innovation is happening. So they should be happy. And ultimately, this is what education is all about. So if you're trying to make people future ready in these fields, I think that this kind of a program, I'm not claiming that this is the only way.
No, but colleges also can apply for it from your platform online?
Maybe down the road. I am not sure of bandwidth. I'm trying to make this case that if doctors and engineers in a confined setting, and you can control it initially. I'm not trying to micromanage it, but you control the process initially. And if this moves forward as it should, if people see, the thing is, it will not move forward unless people see benefit.
Correct.
It is not something which can be pushed, it should be sparked. And I hope that I can succeed in sparking it. Of course, funds are needed to spark it, and other things also play a role. But essentially, unless you see the benefit in cycling, you're not going to learn how to cycle, because there's an effort involved in learning balancing. So if you say, look, I got a car, I don't have to bother, you won't do it. So, and which is some sort of thing. If I know I can buy an equipment which is already there, why should I bother about this? If that's the attitude, then it's not going to work with you. But considering that Make in India or developing the innovation spirit, and as you say, developing the entrepreneurship spirit is a given or is a must in today's world. I think this feeds into that paradigm.
Fantastic. So, where is it today in terms of you've already got started with partnerships?
Yeah, we've started with we've approached many, but we have started officially the program with one institute, which has a medical and engineering college, and we have opened it up. We have started recruiting problems, and we have reached the first stage there. We are going to start with another university closer to Bangalore. So, first institute is in Bangalore. The next institute is in Bangalore. Another institute is signing the MOU. We just received an OK from a third institute. So, we have now about 4 institutes where we hope to start. We have feelers from Chennai and from Hyderabad. And so, but again, my bandwidth would permit initially very few, so that when I go to people, I don't talk about the idea, I show them what can be done. And hopefully, we will be able to convince the government to make this program a curricular imperative. The day you can make this a curricular imperative, then it is not about me or CCAM or any particular organization pushing anything, but it becomes a program where everybody realizes that cross-discipline dialogue is a mandatory part of the educational pedagogy at higher science.
Fantastic. And I think so you see that maybe a year to 2 years of running and the prospective outcomes from a point of new innovations, essentially collaborative effort that should lead to some of those things in solving the definitive problems and more something that could also be taken to commercialization of those innovations.
So I'm not. I'm playing this very simply. Every place where I go to, there is almost an instant recognition of its importance at the higher levels. I mean,
Right.
nowhere have I gone to where people have said, no, it's not important. They might have doubts about its practical applicability, but they are all unanimous in their accepting. One of the universities I went to said that this university has been around for so many years. This is the first time doctors and engineers are sitting together and listening to anybody.
Wow.
Which I thought was an eye opener for me, that they have not even sat down together to listen to a single speaker. So that I thought should be an eye opener for everybody. That if you haven't done it, then you shouldn't. And this is merely the way I look at it. This is a vehicle for change, not
Absolutely.
the only vehicle, not the only vehicle, but I think so.
But this is going to be a significant game changer in the way at least Indian institutions have been running, right? Academic sense. I mean, we've been so poor in coming out with innovations out of universities and institutions. Primarily, I think, or maybe one definite factor is this, that there is no cross-talk between different faculties happening.
And my sort of feeling, because I've been in India largely throughout my career, is that a lot of our thinking is top-driven. So our ability to change is restricted because we look for, has it been accepted abroad, or do the powers that be smile on it and stuff like that. We somewhere along the way we lost our self-confidence that if I feel it's right, it might be right also.
I think that is one thing which is significantly changing, right? I mean, there are manufacturing facilities coming up in India. Earlier, there were, you could count that precision engineering efforts happening out of India in one hand. But today, their facilities are expanding so fast. I mean, people are actually talking, is it really possible to do this kind of work in India today?
But this, mind you, this was there many years back. I recall in 1980s, I was in New York and I saw some software and I said, this is fascinating. Do you think I could take this back with me? And the American there laughed. He said, this came from Bangalore. So, but we didn't know it.
Correct.
So part of the benefit of foreign travel is actually realizing your own strength.
No, that is true. In fact, I met a founder who's been supplying a very small component, obviously a precision engineered component, to Rolls-Royce out of here in Bangalore itself. And you talk to largest of the players and they will say, we can't do precision engineering work in India. And this man had built it from scratch. So it was always there in isolation. But only thing is today that confidence is making it come forth and grow exponentially.
So I hope that this program which I'm pushing will improve the self-esteem of the individuals. I suppose individual self-esteem is already higher than what it was. Me as a student, I remember I was a passive receptacle accepting information. The ability to question is growing in the youth of today. And hopefully this will channelize it in some effective ways. I don't know what the future holds, but uh, hopefully you would be one of the path breakers showing how this can be used. But
No,
as
but
of
if
now,
you
I'm
want to
just
give a shout out
encouraging.
here, yeah.
Sorry.
No, if you want to give a shout out through this platform, if who and whom do you want to talk to here?
I think for me
Let's see
it'll
if
be
we
a
can.
paradigm shift. Till now, it has been a begging bowl attitude. It's telling everybody, please understand what I'm trying to say. But I think you're right. I think it's time we also adopt a different approach and go a little aggressive. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want everybody to learn to follow a process. It's not only about getting there; it is how you get there. It's not only
Correct,
about a product, but the quality of the product.
correct.
And nothing comes if you divorce yourself from standard processes. That's partly the patients which we pick up in medicine. We always say in medicine it's not a brilliant diagnosis, but how meticulously you've done your examination. So, I mean, that's Sherlock Holmes kind of logic. The cop's logic. You go through everything, and then you get your inspiration. So
So I think we Indians can be fairly process driven if we so choose to, because we actually are so comfortable switching our hat, but we can also be very process oriented if we choose to do it. So that won't be a challenge. But if you anyway, we will share this link uh, to this program below this in the podcast. So please do look it up after you listen to it. But irrespective, any questions, I'm sure the website itself there are FAQs are there about to clarify what how the
we
whole
no, we'd be happy to answer questions. We are involved with doing it right now, but I
right.
think you opened my eyes. I think we should get more aggressive to get more people involved in this idea because I think it is something which could be a game changer. So
Oh, it certainly can be a game changer.
we're looking forward to make an impact, a real impact,
And
not for any.
when do you want to open it up for industries to participate? Because the problems you're talking about are real problems and addressed collaboratively by both medical and engineering
Yeah. So that is already
practitioners.
happening. No, that is already happening. What we are working at is a different angle. We are trying to create awareness at the student community level,
Correct. But
student and junior
problems they
faculty.
solve to from a point
Yeah.
of
So
commercialization,
no, but I'm not. See,
or
right
that you
now
want to leave it to
I'm
the universities to
no,
take
no.
it up in
Right,
their
yeah, I mean
incubation center.
anybody can take it forward. I'm
Okay,
not
okay,
controlling that. Right now I'm telling people, look, there is a need to talk to other specialties.
correct,
There is a
correct,
benefit of talking to other specialties, and I'm
correct.
showing them a simple product which comes out of that. Once you got that message, you can go ahead and get your Nobel Prize or make your million. That's up to you. We don't
No,
want.
that's right. But to get more people to come on to it, uh, that simple product that comes out. So obviously, I understand
Yeah,
your
I get
platform
I
will
get
also
what you're
start
saying. If it
showcasing
comes
those
to
products
my
also.
mind, really getting path breaking things would take time, and that to my mind would be serendipity. But the process is what I'm the take home at the
Focused
end
on.
of it is everybody knows it can be done. So when you decide to do it, and that's when the stars align. But you should know that you can do it, and that's the whole entire purpose of education is not to
Correct.
really say that Mr. So and so did it, but to tell everybody that you can do it.
Right. And yeah, I think what effort you're putting in terms of putting a process to make it happen so that it can be copy pasted across the
And modified because
state
we,
and
we are
yeah,
not we are not running this as a commercial venture. This is a very this is socially oriented because CCAMP is a governmental quasi-governmental organization, all said and done. And my ideas has never been to try to monetize this. A lot of people ask me, is it going to make money? And I said, you want to make money out of it? It's up to you. The way I'm looking at it is if by making money you get more people getting the message, good. I don't grudge them that.
Right. I don't know whether I had ever shared this with you. I had done a small effort, something on this side, not with the academic institution. I called it innovate. So collaborate to innovate. So since I started working with the startups in the various startup ecosystems, I started seeing that there are some people who are trying to solve some problem, and it is solved in a different sector, and already it's in practice, in work. So it was just about that if you just stop working with your blinkers and look around, you will find that it is already solved. So that
So,
is where I
so this is exactly what I'm saying. That when I open up like this, I find everybody understands it innately. And I have no patent on thought. So everybody has thought of this. Everybody has.
no, but what you're trying to do makes it see why I must say that that was one of my failed efforts, right? Innovate, where I could not bring people who are working in different places to see that, okay, you have solved it here. Can you share this with another business which is not competing with you, but they could probably take the same approach in solving
So,
it here?
so
And I was
actually,
not able to bring it.
I would invite you to restart it with me now,
No,
because
but
it becomes
no,
a
that's
downstream beneficiary of what I'm trying to do.
absolutely no. And what I think where I probably failed is that to put together a little more structured process, and also to give little more confidence to them that don't worry, it's not losing your value.
No,
So
but
I think it required some more
no,
bulletproofing of it, which probably I failed.
but as it grows, it has to morph. So
Correct,
the needs of the structure for you would be different from needs of the structure
correct,
to me, because
correct,
you need far
correct.
more funding and so on and so on. And you would need
Right,
a proof, one or two people to succeed. Uh,
right.
that is the nature of the game. But as long as we get people thinking along these lines, I think we're already winning.
Oh yes, absolutely. And but most important thing I see is that your approach of creating a process, but at the same time not something clad in concrete or steel, but the way you're putting it, right? A little more organic, which has to be evolving with time and change. So I think that is what is more important. That flexible process. Once that is in place, I think it becomes much more easy to adopt and expand and stretch.
I
So
would have loved to see you sitting as a vice chancellor of a university. You would make a lot of difference.
I don't know, but I think even if I ever to send in an application for that, you should already be there first. I think you are really well placed to be there, and this is a great effort. And you also were saying that you have something to show on the brochure of that, or something
Yeah,
you want
so maybe I'd provide a link to that
to. Okay,
brochure.
perfect,
You could have that, and the website,
perfect,
which is
perfect.
a part of the CCAMP website, and we'll give you a link to it directly
Right,
also, so
right.
that everybody knows.
One more thing I wanted to ask you is that what kind of people are you looking at collaborating in this effort? Do you want to, if you want to give a shout out to people who are doing various things, but if you think they could be useful in the effort that you're putting in, so
See,
probably you could use this effort, this platform to say that this is the kind of things I'm looking at, and since we will be sharing your LinkedIn link as well, maybe they can give you a shout out and say, listen, what you're doing is great, and maybe I can help you with this.
I'm not much of a media person, but I'm, what we want is people to, number one, be aware that such things exist. So we'd like a lot of universities to recognize that it exists and give us a chance to explain to them how it could be beneficial to them. Number one, we would want industry to realize that this is what they are looking for in their students, not merely graduates, but problem solvers. And therefore, if they even put their names next to it, it attracts the engineers. That, okay, at the end of it, some person might be interested in the fact that I've gone through this effort.
Right.
We want individuals like you to contribute by maybe taking lectures or teaching students, or mentoring or judging, because it's not a one man show. We are
Right.
only laying the frame, and the rest is all how people interact in the process.
Great. I just want
Funds is
to.
a universal need, I must say that, but the issue is not is this is not a shout out for money. This is more of a shout out for participation.
Perfect. Just want to highlight that when you say you're looking at universities to take note of it, what kind of university are you proposing
Class,
that these should?
Classically, universities which have medical and engineering colleges with them
Right.
have
Right.
decided to focus. This is an artificial focus. You can actually take this anywhere.
Right.
You can
But
consider
at this
any
stage, your
at this
preference
stage.
is those. Yeah.
This is my core specialization, so I don't want to be talking about defense. So I can start with this, but I see this paradigm as being easily replicated.
Perfect. So that's the clarity in term, because otherwise everybody may want to say that we are also,
No, but
which may be relevant, but not in
no,
this
no. So
context at this point of
let's
time.
assume a university which doesn't have a medical college. I can reach them to a medical college which doesn't have an engineering college attached. Why not?
So that's also fine. Okay. Perfect.
And I mean,
So
they just need to be, the Mia Bibi Razi, that kind of stuff. I'll be the Qazi. So
sure. Perfect. And how do you see the support that is coming through from the industry so far? Whatever is the interaction you're having.
well, we have
Uh,
some very generous philanthropists,
okay.
Kiran Majumdar Shah and uh, Shibulal from the Solid Center,
Infosys. Yeah.
Bhairavi Singh Shibulal, were two people who provided us initial support to get this going. And I must thank them directly,
Fantastic.
because I think if it were not for them, we couldn't have got off the ground. Because this is a program which is trying to head to the center from the periphery. So recognizing its value and being willing to provide some funds is something which we would love anybody to do in that sense, provided they understand why they're doing it.
Right.
And the second is, as I said, even giving their name to this in some way, their experts, employees to come and contribute in some way. Welcome. Because you should see that, this is something which is a universal benefit.
Correct.
So even their employees giving pro bono effort with us is more than welcome. And I'd like to start it like a movement. I'm not the
Right.
Sadguru, so I can't seem to generate that kind of momentum. But I think
But
bit by bit, we are getting there, hopefully.
yeah, sure thing. You will get there, and whatever. Uh, I think the extended circle, we have a lot of network and access. I think, uh, and best part is you're approaching it like probably like a surgery, right? You define each aspect of it and going step by step. That process you
The way I
stitching
look
together.
at it, given my age, this is my one shot at getting it right. So
But what I like about the whole thing is that the whole idea is that this kind of an approach gets gets it right most times, because that every time you're looking at it and getting it right at this time. So it's not that once getting it right.
I'm putting this up front. My toes are also crossed.
Sure.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
but I must appreciate, must sort of thank you for this, random invite which you gave me initially, which triggered this thought process. And because I think this is something I think we need. We need to reach out to more people, and if through your medium, you've done us a great favor. Thanks.
Oh, happy to, and I will anyway on the through the platform and after we'll try to we'll anyway connect and see how best can contribute to this effort. And once again, all those who are listening to or watching this, please go through the link shared below, and also share it with the people you think will most benefit or even can participate or contribute to this effort. And I'm sure many of you would like to appreciate it. Please feel free to do that also directly with the link shared of Dr. Ravi's LinkedIn page, as well as the CCAMP site where this program is being given. your questions can come in there, and whatever the clarification you need in that context also, please feel free to uh, share and support this effort as well. Thank you once again, Dr. Ravi. This is a great conversation, thoroughly enjoyed, and we'll connect back with you to get you to make some predictions if uh, uh, for the fun of it. But I'm sure you are one of those who actively think about what the future could be. So I'm sure that will be very exciting as well. Thank you once again, and everybody enjoy the ride and stay safe.